What's going on, everybody? It's JetsCentral coming back with another video, and the New York Jets ended up trimming their roster down last night to 53 men, just like every other team in the NFL. But there were really two specific cuts that to me made no sense. All right, and we're going to get into it. But there were also a few names out there, some recognizable names, some notable names that did not make this team. I put together a little list. Not necessarily saying that all of these guys were like surprise, shocking cuts that should have made the team. I'm not necessarily saying that. I'm just saying that these are some of the guys that, we all recognize these names, guys that have impacted the Jets in one way or another. So, and of course, we're going to get into the two that rubbed me the wrong way before or later on in the video. But here's a little list. First guy, Eric Tomlinson, right? Tomlinson was a guy who, this is a guy who made some plays for the Jets. He has a few starts, in previous years, more of a blocking tight end. I feel with Herndon's suspension, the tight end position is really thin. I'm not so sure cutting and of course, I'm not saying that Tomlinson is a top 5 guy. He's the next Tony Gonzalez. Not by any means. I'm just saying with the tight end position looking a little thin right now with Herndon's suspension, I don't really fully buy into the idea. Let's get rid of a guy in Tomlinson who is had some playing time, some meaningful playing time on Sundays with the Jets. So Tomlinson was the first guy to go. Next up, Davis Webb and Luke Falk, which immediately tells all the Jets fans that we're going to be running 2 quarterbacks on the active roster, Sam Darnold, obviously, and then Trevor Siemian, which I'm okay with. There's really no point if you're the Jets to develop a third quarterback, stash him really low on the depth chart on the active roster. If you want to add Webb, if you want to add Falk to the practice squad, go ahead and do it. But as far as the active roster, I think Sam, who's shown that he's durable, let's knock on wood here, throughout his career, whether it's at USC or last season. This is a bigger dude who kind of likes contact. I'm not really freaked out. I'm not dealing with a Andrew Luck situation. I'm not really dealing with a one of these quarterbacks that are kind of frail, injury prone. So I'm not really too mad of running the 2 quarterback, having 2 active quarterbacks on the roster. I actually prefer it that way. And then, of course, Trevor Siemian, a proven backup in this league. He's won some games. He's lost some games. He has some experience, but he's also still young where, he's still kind of learning the game as well. So Davis Webb is gone. Luke Falk is gone. Tim White. Tim White is a guy who I thought did enough to make this team. I thought he showed a lot in practice. I thought he showed. Now, granted, he never really had his moment in the preseason in an actual game, and I feel like probably that was his demise with the Jets. But this is a guy right now who, he kind of came out of nowhere. He bounced around a little. He spent a little bit of time in the league. He's not that old of a player, but he spent all offseason working with the speed doctor, one of my friends. I believe he's located out of California. Go check out his Instagram page. Really, really cool guy. Really, really, really smart individual as far as explosiveness, speed, agility, all that stuff. The speed doctor. And Tim White worked a lot with him. And, I really feel like White still is going on the linear. He's trending upwards, right? He could get a lot better. And I also think he's kind of a really good fit for Darnold's skill set. I thought if they just kind of have some more time together, that White could have meshed with Darnold and this offense better over time. But here are the 2 cuts that really, let's just be honest, ticked me off, right? And I feel like it ticked off a lot of Jets fans. Number 1, Eli McGuire. I guess the silver lining is you can say Ty Montgomery, Bilal Powell, those guys have impressed big time, okay? Especially Powell because he's coming off the injury. And I am, of course, happy for Bilal that he's making the team and whatnot. But Eli McGuire, still has 2 years left on his deal, barely paying him. Like, he's not on a big contract or anything. And this is a guy who, shown early in his career, can help out on special teams and he can help out on the offense side of the football. I mean, this is a guy who did really, he had really, I believe 2 or 3 really, really, really good games last season running the football. As a pass catching running back, not really too sure, sold on it. But hey, he's a 5th round pick who had some time in special teams, had some time on the offense, and made a lot of plays. So I really disagree with cutting Eli McGuire. But again, you can say The only reason why we cut Eli is because Bilal Powell impressed that much, and he must be a full go, 100% healthy. So that is good. And I just got the update. The Miami Dolphins trade Kiko Alonso to the New Orleans Saints after 3 seasons. The Miami Dolphins are a complete wreck. All right, moving on. The last cut, the most controversial cut that the Jets made yesterday was 3rd-round pick, outside linebacker out of Florida, Jachai Polite. This move to me did not make any sense at all. Unless the Jets know something that the fans don't know, like he's going to fail a huge drug test, he's on steroids, he's just a extreme locker room cancer, or he's just frankly not showing up to practice, not caring, just completely mailing it in. This release made no sense, because even if Jachai Polite is behind the 8 ball on the system, on gaining weight, on just getting better as a pass rusher, you still have 1 full season to develop him and 3 seasons after that, paying him as a 3rd-round pick. This is a guy who still, yes, he was released. He did not make the team as a 3rd-round pick. He still has a high upside. At one point, he was considered a 1st-round pick. Think about that for a second. And to also think that the Jets are extremely weak or thin at the outside linebacker position doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, like I was saying before, unless he's just coming in, just distracting everybody, just complete locker room cancer, and you almost have to worry about, I'm not necessarily saying like an Antonio Brown type of cancer. I'm saying more like you remember when like Geno Smith got like punched in the face, something like that, where you're worried about how he's affecting or how he's the vibes that he's kind of creating in the locker room. Unless you're worried about a situation like that, or like I said, he's going to fail a drug test, he's going to get suspended for a really long time, it's not really too justifiable. And yes, Joe Douglas did not pick Polite. Greg Williams was the coaching staff when, he was the defensive coordinator when we picked Polite. Adam Gase was the head coach when we picked him. So that tells me that Mike McCagnon did not consult his coaching staff when this pick came about. All right. So it's just disappointing, because I still do believe in Polite. Not saying he's a Von Miller or anything like that, but I'm just looking at the outside linebacker position. I'm looking at how the Jets haven't had a pass rusher in years, dating back to the Bulls era, dating back to the Rex Ryan era. We haven't had that stud pass rusher off the edge. Polite has that ceiling. Is he there yet? Absolutely not. But can he be one day? Possibly. And just to get rid of him with 3 years left, really 4 years on the contract, paying him as a 3rd-round pick, that just seems a little weird, right? Like it's almost like the Jets are like rubbing the salt in the wound of Mike McCagnon getting fired. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I would have kept Polite on the roster. Worst case scenario, just bump him all the way down and tell him you're in danger of not making the team. You got to step it up here. But I feel like it's more of a system fit kind of deal. And Joe Douglas is like, hey, I didn't pick the guy. Let's just get rid of him. Let's start fresh. But the ironic thing is, he hasn't played a game. So you're kind of starting fresh with him if you decide to keep him. So it makes no sense to me, whatever. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Eli McGuire, Tomlinson, Tim White, Jachai Polite, a couple quarterbacks. Are you excited? Or are you, I guess excited is the wrong word. Are you okay with these cuts? Some Jets fans are completely fine with it. Some Jets fans, on the other hand, are angry, right? I was talking to one of my friends, and he's like, really, really upset that we cut Eli McGuire because he was kind of thinking back to the games where he did really, really, really well. He had a few 100-plus rush games. That's solid for a 5th-round pick. That's incredible value, and he also helps out on special teams. So there's some good, there's some bad. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. And by the way, this video's gone on long enough. I know I have been rambling here, but I didn't upload this video yesterday because I was stuck at work for the first part of it, and then for the second part of it, it's just trying to gear up for the hurricane. Supposedly, it's going to be right now it's a Category 4, looking like it could turn to a Category 5 if it keeps on making progress, I guess, and it's going to be hitting Florida, so it's like kind of right in my neck of the woods. So we'll see how that whole thing goes. But anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and go Jets.